morning. Welcome to In the Air, on the Air. I'm Kate Phelan, Airport Commissioner, and I'm up here at Westfield Barnes Regional Airport, and I'm here with my co-host, Chris Willenborg. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Kate.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing today?
Doing awesome. We have a very special guest with us this morning. Chris, I'll have you do the honors of introducing our guest.
Absolutely. So it's a pleasure today to welcome Colonel David Halasi-Kun, better known by his call sign as Moon, here at the 104th Fighter Wing. We're looking forward to interviewing today, and congratulations on becoming the Wing Commander of the 104th Fighter Wing.
Thanks, Chris. Kate.
Congratulations, sir. Welcome to our show. We're so happy to have you here. We can't wait to learn all about your plans for the base and your leadership with the commanding the wing base, the base. And we're excited to have you here. So we'll get to you in a minute. So sit tight. We're going to talk a little bit about the airport. And so last weekend, as we all know, was Memorial Day weekend. And we hopefully we were able to recognize our fallen men and women in the service. I actually had a great opportunity. I was in my little tiny hometown of Broad Albin, New York, and very small village. And I got to go to the Memorial Day parade with my niece and her two children, which is my grandniece and grandnephew. And it's, those small hometown parades, when they recognize, our veterans that have served in all the wars, it's such a warm feeling, that the small communities still recognize the importance of those fallen soldiers. So, Chris, did you celebrate in any particular
Well,
way?
certainly, a thank you to the men and women of the armed services that made the ultimate sacrifice, to their families. Certainly, it's important that we recognize their efforts and honor those that made the ultimate sacrifice. Actually, the week before, was able to participate in the F-100 rededication ceremony, which Moon oversaw that ceremony and honoring the individuals that lost their lives flying at the 104th. They have 13 members.
Yes, 13 members on the wall.
So it was a wonderful ceremony there, recognizing those individuals and their families were there. So it was a solemn but moving service for sure. So.
And sir, did you have any special moments over that weekend?
I did, actually. I was at a baseball tournament with my son all weekend, 12-year-old, great baseball player. We were all the way down in Delaware.
Nice.
And the tournament was right next to an airport. And right around noon on Sunday, the B-25 Poncho, owned by the EAA, came through and was flying patterns directly over the baseball games. So I sat with the baseball team, so 12 great kids, and I told them the story of the Doolittle Raiders and why that plane is so significant and what it means on the day before Memorial Day to have it flying over your baseball game. And it really drove home to me the importance that we tell these stories. Not just the importance of the sacrifice, but how the sacrifice happened to that younger generation, so they understand not just what service is, but sometimes the cost of service, but still its importance in how we live the lives that we have today because of the sacrifices of those who have gone before.
Oh, that's awesome. Even in Broad Albin, I was surprised there was 3. Of course, I don't know what kind of aircraft they were, but there was 3. They looked like older, historic kind of older planes that flew over. That was very cool. I wasn't expecting that in Broad Albin, New York, and so that was kind of cool to see those 3 planes fly over. It was very, very warming, and I wasn't, like I said, wasn't expecting that. I'm like, no, this is kind of cool for Broad Albin. So it was nice. It was a nice service.
I have to ask, how'd the team do?
Oh.
They did great. Yeah, made it to the finals, but got beat in the finals. It was a great tournament. Teams from all over. We had teams from New York, Delaware, Virginia, Maryland, and Connecticut all down there. So
Wow. What position does your son play?
First base and
Nice.
pitches. So.
Oh, pitcher.
Is he a lefty?
He's a lefty.
There you go.
Any future career in professional baseball, or we don't know?
I think he's got a career in high school baseball, and that's as far as I'm
You'll
willing
see
to
how
commit.
it goes. That's great. That's great. Well, that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing those stories. So, Chris, let's talk a little bit about the airport. I know we have a lot going on up here. As a commissioner, I know what's going on, but you're the expert with managing this airport, and it's such a great airport. So why don't we talk about some things that are happening?
Sure, absolutely. Since our last show, we had a site visit by the Mass DOT senior leadership team. And these individuals from MassDOT who came out were not part of the aeronautics division. They were from other modes of transportation or shared services. So they were here for about 2 hours, and we gave them a tour of the airport. We did a presentation, and we were able to bring them to our tenants' facilities on the airfield. We went to visit the 104th Fighter Wing, the Army National Guard hangar facility, Gulfstream, Westfield Tech Academy, and they had a wonderful 2 hours out here. After that visit, they went to Westover and then Southbridge. So they had visited 3 different types of airports that day. So really, really went well.
Yeah, I actually enjoyed that meeting as well, because I had never been to the Army.
National Guard, yep.
Yeah, Army National Guard facility. That's the first time I'd been over there. And it had been quite a while since I'd been in Gulfstream. And it was pretty impressive to see every bay, taken up with aircraft being repaired. Fran Ahern, the manager over there, he did quite a nice presentation with our group. They broke us up into 2 groups, and he did a really nice job, because I know he doesn't like to speak.
Yes.
It was really interesting to listen to him, because he certainly is the expert over there too. And it was really a nice day to hobnob with a MassDOT leadership team. It was fun. It was a fun day.
Absolutely.
And it was good for them to see our airport.
Yep.
And the challenges we have too.
Yes, I mean, for them to see the amount of infrastructure we have just here at Westfield, 1,200 acres of land, 600 acres of grasslands, 3.5 million square feet of pavement, that all needs to be maintained and kept safe. So it was great to have them see that up close, personal, out on the air.
I need to memorize those statistics because I'm so glad you know it by heart, because every time you say, I'm like, oh my gosh, we have all this, I need to memorize that. One of these days I'll get it down pat.
There we go. I'll give you a cheat sheet.
Okay, good.
We'll work on that. Another thing we were working on is this time of year, we're doing our preventative maintenance out on the airfield. So we're working with MassDOT Aeronautics. They have a statewide crack sealing, crack repair program. So they've been out here for about 5 days over the last month or so, doing work on our taxiways, our runways, which is very helpful. They pay for that at 100%. So there's no airport or city share involved. And obviously that goes a long way for preserving the runway and taxiway pavements. We also did our airfield marking. So working with the 104th, the airport, and our budgets, we remarked runway 220. So that was completed. And
now when you say markings, what does that actually mean?
So to help pilots take off and land daytime and nighttime, we have white pavement markings, kind of like on your road. You have the center line, the yellow double line on a road. Well, out on a runway, they're white markings. And you have center line stripes, aiming points, touchdown zone points, threshold markings. So there's a variety of FAA required markings, and basically we need to maintain those probably about once a year, depending on how bad the winters are.
So
here.
on a road, on the left-hand side is yellow and the right-hand side is white. Is that, I've always noticed that on a roadway, but it's different on an airport. They're both the same color?
Pretty much all the runway markings are white.
Okay.
You will have lead-in lines to a taxiway, or what they call chevrons at the end of the runway that shows where the end is and the overrun. Those are yellow in the lead-in lines.
Okay.
But for standardization for pilots and vehicle operators on the airfield, you're trained that when you see white markings, you're on a runway.
On a runway.
Yeah.
Good to know.
So we've had that going on. And also last week, Westfield Technical Academy had their aviation maintenance technology program graduation ceremony.
There.
Moon was the
I was there.
featured speaker.
Moon was there. It's okay if we call you Moon?
That's fine.
Commander? I don't know. With this new title, I just want to make sure it's okay.
But it was a great ceremony. I believe there were 13 graduates. There were probably about 150 people there,
great
family
ceremony.
members.
Beautiful, yeah.
And actually, maybe you want to talk a little bit about one of the graduates who.
Yeah.
You did a nice presentation. You're the keynote speaker.
Yeah. But the highlight to me, anytime we have the opportunity to enlist a new member to the 104th Fighter Wing, which we did, Airman Basic Coach, who I'd known since he was, I think, preteen. When I was living in Westfield, he was a friend of a friend, so we met each other through the police department, basically. And he decided to enlist in the 104th Fighter Wing, and at the conclusion of the graduation ceremony, we called him up front, had him raise his right hand, and swore him in as a member of the 104th. And it was that's the highlight. That's the best part of the job is bringing a new young member who's fired up and ready to serve their country. It's a huge honor for anybody who has the opportunity to do that. And then extra special since it's a kid that I've known for a while.
So you swore him in. So now what's the next step for him? I didn't really know what that meant when he was sworn in. Does he go to boot camp?
Yep, he's going to wind up going to basic training.
There you go.
And he is going to work in propulsion, so he'll be working on jet engines.
Nice.
And if I remember right, he's going to go to Bridgewater State, and he hopes to become a pilot. So it's an excellent path inside the Mass Air National Guard.
Okay.
If you enlist as a student, Massachusetts pays for your tuition to any state-run university or institution. So he will serve in the 104th while simultaneously going to school.
Okay.
And he has to come into the 104th once a month and two weeks out of the year. And he'll get a full free ride education to Bridgewater State as a result of that. And he'll come out of Bridgewater as a pilot and an aircraft mechanic. And he's a huge candidate to fly the F-15 or whatever our follow-on platform will be.
So that's his career path. He wants to be a
That's
fighter
what he's
pilot.
going after. He wants to be a fighter pilot.
Good for him. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, it was a great moment
It
to
was.
be, witness the swearing in. I think also, the school had shared with the group that 6 of recent graduates are now employees up at Gulfstream, working on aircraft. So
know that.
Transition, the pathway of a high school program leading to a private sector position, working in the industry, helping a need where Gulfstream, there's a shortage of aircraft mechanics. We're helping fill that pipeline, getting these kids the opportunity. So it was wonderful to see. And Galen and the team at Westfield Technical Academy have just done a great job preparing them to be in that role. And Fran Ahern was at the ceremony also.
He was.
And they're very, very happy with the 6 new employees. And they're also working with current students on an internship program.
Good.
So now that we're coming out of COVID, they're able to do those programs and really get the students interested to pursue a career.
I'm actually, I'm a mentor at the Tech Academy, a student mentor, and I actually have one of my mentees. He's actually in collision, and he wants to get an internship or a co-op at Gulfstream, repairing aircraft. He's had his interview. We don't know how it went yet, but even in the shop in collision, they're working on cars. They're learning welding and everything else to repair on a vehicle. So now he just wants to transfer those skills to a little bit larger piece of equipment, like aircraft. And so hopefully it'll work out. So yeah, the Tech Academy is a great school.
It is. It's
for many of these kids. Yeah.
The aviation program it's one of a kind, one of 3 in the entire country.
Right.
The only one in New England, and it's
right.
it's part of a successful airport has that self-sustaining kind of biosphere in itself, where the Westfield Tech works on the airport grounds, and then their graduates are being employed by people on the airport, and pilots are being trained at organizations like Fly Lugu, and those pilots are trying to get into flight instruction or the 104th Fighter Wing, and as we train this younger generation here on the airport, it kind of self-sustains and it continues to grow, and we have this environment and this family here on the airport that it's unique. It's not something that exists everywhere.
And even with Wright Flight, they're exposing kids younger. Like I'm hearing even 6th graders, but definitely 7th and middle school age kids. They expose them with flying, correct?
Yeah, and actually 2 weeks ago, we had the entire 6th grade from the Westfield school system come through for a tour here at the airport. And they had different stations to visit, and it went really, really well. They had a chance to learn about the Western Mass Wright Flight Aviation 1 program, which is for 7th and 8th graders, but at least give them an opportunity that there are some career fields that you might be interested in. We even had FAA out on both days. They talked about career fields, and Fly Lugu had an aircraft. Frederica Ballard, the owner of Fly Lugu, was out there explaining opportunities with flying. They had the aircraft available, so it was a great day.
So and listening, of course, I've been here a long time, but I think isn't our airport we've got to be very unique. We have the collaboration with, I mean, it's a city-owned airport. We have the education component between Right Flight, Fly Lugo, the Tech Academy, and then we're quasi-public-private federal, government with the 104th Fighter Wing. I mean, how many airports have those components, Chris? I think we're so unique here, and we have such great partnerships with everyone, and that's such a wonderful asset to Westfield. And but it makes me think of a question. So with the military, does the FAA have any authority with the military component of the airport, or is it you have your own quote FAA? How does that work with the 104?
Everything that we do on a day-to-day training basis is in compliance with FAA regulations. So
Okay,
we work
okay.
hand in glove with the airport and the FAA to make sure that we are
okay.
operating in accordance with. Obviously, if we're going to war, then a lot of the regulation is out the window. But as long as we're operating in peacetime ROE inside the United States airspace, we operate just like any other airplane on.
But do they they don't inspect the base? I mean, they don't, do they?
They'll still come out and look at our markings
do,
and
okay.
give us recommendations. But in
Okay.
terms of inspecting the aircraft or inspecting our buildings, we are our own entity, and we answer to the Department of Defense under those circumstances.
I always wondered about that.
Yeah, and many of the design standards are very similar between DoD and the FAA. So pavement designs, things like that. Even our FAA Part 139 certification, many of the requirements that are on a civilian commercial service airport are very similar. The military meets similar requirements from their regulations.
Yeah, I can imagine it would be a little crazy if they weren't, have the, yeah.
And we work really
Policy.
closely with the 104th with their
course we do.
base operations, their airfield manager, Chrissy Bassett. They're out here inspecting like us each day to make sure the airport's safe, not only for the F-15 operations, but also for the civilian traffic. So it's great to have that partnership, another set of eyes that are looking at the airfield, things that come up. And the 104th is very proactive. They have a quarterly Air Operations Safety Board meeting.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I'm a member of that committee, so we attend. Moon chairs that. Will you keep that position as wing commander, or does that get passed?
I'll probably pass that down, but I'll definitely attend. Just 'cause I like hanging out with you guys.
But it's a good thing where we look at operational concerns and things like that to make sure the airfield is as safe as possible, because that's our number one job, is keeping the airport safe and have a safe airfield for aircraft operations.
Okay.
Yeah, and the way we operate with Chris, I think if you wanted a great example of the partnerships that between the airport and the 104th, come out here in the middle of a blizzard, and what you'll see is Air Guard plows and brooms running nonstop for 24 hours. You'll see airport trucks and brooms running up and down the taxiways and the runway as well. And Chris will be out there handing out hot coffee and food to everybody.
Nice.
And our CE commanders and everybody up there will be doing the same. And it's just, it's kind of indicative of the way that we operate. We pick up where Chris leaves off, and Chris picks up where we leave off, and this airport stays open, and America stays safe, and we can launch those alert jets anytime.
I know. I'm so glad we're doing more marketing about our airport, because it's such a great asset, and we just want to get the word out there. Come fly with us.
Yeah, and speaking of marketing, last month I had a chance to go to the National Business Aviation Schedulers and Dispatchers Conference. So Westfield Martins Regional Airport had a booth set up, and we exhibited over 3 days. The conference is focused on business aircraft operations, and the operators that do the scheduling and dispatching, they were the attendees. So there were about 2,700 attendees there.
Wow.
And over those 3 days, we promoted Westfield Martins Regional Airport as a gateway here to the Berkshires and New England. Obviously, we have a lot to offer here, a great infrastructure, and all great, fantastic services. So we had a really good turnout, a lot of people coming through, and we have seen the efforts of our marketing starting to pay off. Our aircraft operations count was up since 2017. We're up 20%. And this past year, we eclipsed 50,000 takeoffs and landings at the airport. And the military accounts for 11% of those, which is important. But primarily, we have quite a bit of civilian traffic here. We also had 26 sport team charters that came through this past year. And with 3,700 student athletes. So that's important. We cater to every aspect of aviation here. And to your point earlier, we are a little bit unique being a civilian military joint use facility. There aren't a lot of them around the country, but obviously we love having the 104th Fighter Wing here and the Army National Guard. It really is a partnership. So.
Absolutely. So, and I think we have a few other things going on at the airport, right, Chris?
Yeah, actually, if you want to talk a little bit about some of your other
I
marketing.
Yes, we have a great marketing effort. So I chair like the marketing working group. Is that what the right name
Sounds
is?
good.
Yeah, sounds good, right? So our last meeting, we actually met with Alex Colby, right, and you and me. So we're going to start having a soft and hard merchandise line. And we actually have a meeting on Monday where we'll be vetting vendors for clothing line. So we're going to have clothing for men, women, and children. And we're going to have, let's see if I get them all. We're going to have t-shirts, polo hoodies, right, sweatshirts, hoodies. We're going to have a 3/4 zip fleece. I think I'm missing something.
The polo
and
golf
the golf
shirt.
polo shirts.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to have hats. So that's the soft line of the clothing. And then, like I said, they'll be all for men, women, and children. And then we're going to have the hard goods will be coffee mugs, the insulated,
Like the Yeti cups.
like a Yeti cup.
Yeah, coffee.
The design is beautiful. They're going to be black with silver etching of our logo. And then we're going to have 2 kinds of keychains, I believe, and then a die-cast
Aircraft.
die-cast
something
cast
for
aircraft, and coffee mugs. I think I got everything. We're going to have a beautiful, we'll have a nice case here with all the
Yes.
items in there for sale. So we're excited about this. We've never had merchandise before for the airport. So this is great. So I'm really excited about that. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
And the colors and the designs are going to be beautiful. It's going to be nice.
Absolutely.
Quality clothing too, quality.
Looking forward to playing golf.
Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
right.
golf shirt.
I want to make sure I got everything. Yep, that's our merchandise.
All right. So I guess we'll turn our attention to you, Moon, and then maybe first of all, again, congratulations on your new position as Wing Commander of the 104th Fighter Wing. Maybe you can share with us and for the public the overall mission of the 104th and what the men and women of the 104th do each day, and that'd be great.
Yeah, I love telling that story. So I'll start with the basics of the 104th. We are an Air National Guard base, which means we answer to both the governor and the President of the United States. So what you would have seen over the last 2 years is 104th members out in the community helping with the COVID response. And at the same time, the F-15s are answering to the President with the alert mission as well as worldwide deployable. So that's the greatest strength of the Guard, is that we are flexible in that we can immediately start serving our community, or that we can immediately start serving combatant commanders overseas or at home. That's not something that's possible inside the active duty, because obviously federal troops being used at home present some legal challenges constitutionally, whereas the National Guard and the militia can always be used at home under what's called Title 32, vice Title 10, which is active duty use. So here at the 104th, they call us a model Air National Guard base because we have a relatively small postage stamp. We're not a massive base. Every building that we have is very purposefully built and centered on the mission. So we don't have a BX, a commissary, a bowling alley, the family comforts that come along with a large Air Force base, because quite frankly, our large Air Force base is our community, right? We don't need all of that on the base because we are Westfield, we are Holyoke, we are all the surrounding communities, and all those comforts are provided to us by the community, and that's our greatest strength. We're tied to what makes us strong, and that's the people who support us. So we have 1,000 members up there on the 104th, give or take a couple hundred civilian employees as well. So 1,000 military members and about 1,200 people who are directly supported by the 104th. And our primary mission is flying the F-15, but laid inside of that wing as well are the support group, the medical group, and And then ops and maintenance obviously support the F-15. But I'll talk real quick about the support group and the medical group because of the contributions that they've made over just the last 2 years during the pandemic. So I think the medical group is relatively self-explanatory. So that group has been testing and vaccinating constantly for the last 2 years inside of Massachusetts. So the governor, at the height of the pandemic, called up the National Guard and put us out there in the communities to do the mission that the governor needed us to do. And we're continuing to do it. We still have people on mission, and we're hopefully wrapping that up here shortly. And then inside the support group, there are squadrons that also contributed there as well, primarily being the Security Forces Squadron. So when there were problems in Boston, the protests that were going on, security forces were forward deployed to help the state police and the local police deal with anybody who got rowdy during those protests. And again, they were mobilized, I want to say 5 times over the course of 2 years to go and support that. And then on top of that, we also responded to the January 6th National Guard response to provide security inside the Capitol. And we sent our security forces as well as members across the MSG and the operations group and the maintenance group down there. So when we asked for volunteers, the governor called us up and said, hey, we need some people to go down to DC, and we had hundreds more volunteers than the governor was asking for. So important part of what we do in the National Guard is support our governor, and people don't sign up for the National Guard unless they want to serve, and given the opportunity to serve, we always have the people who want to go and get the mission done, which again is our greatest strength, because we live in the community. We want to support the communities that we live in. On the so that's kind of the core of the support and the medical group, and then our federal mission is flying the F-15, and that's where maintenance and operations comes in. So right now, about a quarter mile up the runway there, I can see the hangars out the window. We have alert aircraft, so they can be airborne on minutes' notice, and their job is to protect roughly 40 million Americans. This is the only air defense site in New England and New York. There's nothing else out there. Those are the F-15s right there that are protecting 40 million Americans, and about those 40 million Americans are generating about a third of the GDP in the United States of America. So it's a heavy burden, but it's one that we take on readily and highly trained and highly capable to get it done. So that is our 24/7, 365. We are on alert for this nation. And then layered on top of that is we have our wartime mission. So if something were to happen in the world, anywhere in the world, we would get a call from the Department of Defense saying we need F-15 presence in X, Y, or Z country, and we will pack up and be on the road inside of about 72 hours. So in order to keep both the alert and that overseas deployable mission, we're obviously training constantly because the call could come at any time, and away we go. So when you see the F-15s taking off every day and landing every day, this is absolutely in preparation to better defend this nation, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah, and obviously from the airport management perspective, having that alert mission, and you mentioned, it's a burden, but yet, it's a great responsibility, and obviously your unit trains and makes sure they're ready at a moment's notice. But from our team, having that mission based here is an honor, and we take that very seriously. Making sure our airfield is available. So if you get the call, you guys can get off the ground. And you mentioned in the wintertime, no matter night, day, weather conditions, you guys have to go. And we work really closely together to make sure your aircraft can get off the ground within that time and protect our country. So
yeah, the world is definitely not getting safer.
No.
We see what's going on in Eastern Europe. We understand the heightened tensions that are going on in the Pacific. And that's a big part of the messaging that we do with our airmen is not just, we train for the mission of air defense. Yes, we do, but we train very specifically for offensive and defensive counter-air missions against a specific threat in a specific region, and we find the most challenging scenarios to train ourselves against. And we go out there and we fail constantly.
Really?
And the reason that we fail is because if we didn't push ourselves to that point of failure, then we're not going to learn. So we have new pilots that are cycling through. We need to teach and train them. So we will give them the most challenging things that we can, so they go out there and don't think that this is. Once you graduate pilot training and you learn to fly the F-15, it's like getting your driver's license. All you've really done is gotten a license to learn more.
Okay, yeah.
And if we don't challenge them right out the gate, and we show them what failure looks like, then they're not going to learn. So a typical mission will be an hour and a half long.
Wow.
But there'll be roughly an hour of briefing prior to that mission. And depending on the complexity, it could be a debrief that lasts a minimum of maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours. But I would say the average is more like 3 hours. And in a very complex mission, we will sit down and debrief. And I'll tell you the details of what the debrief is shortly here. But we'll debrief for up to 6, 8, 10 hours, depending on the number of mistakes and the complexity of the mission.
So I noticed when they're flying over the area and are over Westfield, because I go, I live near the Southwick border, town line, I should say, but it always seems like they're flying low. Is that? I mean, I don't know how high they can go, but I'm always curious as to. It seems like it's low. What else? I mean, probably 10,000 feet. I have no idea.
Well, it just depends, because as soon as we take off out of this area, so if we're recovering or we're taking off, we're working with air traffic control. So Bradley Air Traffic Control is telling us what altitudes to be at and what airspeeds to fly, because basically this is a relatively congested airspace.
Yeah.
So when we train, we're going to fly up towards Burlington, or we're going to fly down south of Long Island. So if you think about the corridor that we have to cross as we take off out of here, there's Bradley traffic, there's traffic coming from Boston to New York to Boston's overseas traffic coming into New York and Boston. So as we're crossing that corridor, air traffic control is going to give us very specific altitudes to be at as we go. So if we're low over Southwick, it probably means that there's somebody coming into Bradley, so they're holding us low.
But what is that? How high is that? I mean, is
it depends. I'd say by the time we're crossing Southwick, we're probably climbing through about 4,000, 5,000.
Yeah. Okay. It is.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yep.
And can they really? Can they do like a three? Do they flip? Can they really flip that?
Well, once we're in the airspace, we can. It's your own personal roller coaster. You can take that jet wherever you want it to go. But when we're with air traffic control, we're straight and level.
Right, but can they flip?
Of course they can.
I didn't realize. Well, I'm
Very
referring,
maneuverable.
You know, I'm referring to the Top Gun movie because I just saw that, but I didn't. I'm like, wow, they can really do that. Whew.
Absolutely, yes. The F-15 is a highly maneuverable aircraft, pulling up to 9 Gs, which is 9 times the weight of gravity. So. Yeah, absolutely. It's to be an old colonel who's been flying the F-15 for
Moon, come on. Old.
for 20 years at the neck and the spine.
Wow, 20 years.
Yeah, it's been a long tour.
Will your flying opportunities decrease as a commander?
I will fly less.
You will?
It's been consistently flying less. So as you progress in rank, because the responsibilities out of the airplane start to
You're gonna miss
start
it,
to
right?
mount up. I will absolutely miss it.
Of course.
But I'll still fly once or twice a week as it stands. But I still remember my days as a captain flying 5 or 6 times a week, and really just.
Yeah. Well, my cousin's a retired pilot, commercial airline pilot. He was in the service, but commercial airline pilot. And that was his passion. I mean, he just wanted to fly. I mean, once a pilot, always a pilot, right?
Absolutely.
So I'm sure you will. It'll be bittersweet.
Yes.
But I think you fly as a hobby too. So
I do.
Yeah. So you'll be able to fly.
And fighter aviation's a young man's game. I have old age and treachery on my side, but
Old age, please.
They have
please.
athleticism.
Well, I think it's important to know too, Moon has a civilian aircraft here too.
That's what I was-
So when he's
yeah.
not flying F-15s, he's flying his own aircraft.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have a Bonanza that we bought, I don't know, 6-7 years ago to be able to fly around New England with my family, which is just great. If you're going to fly civilian, and I've flown civilian throughout the country, New England is the best place. The summers here, you can be on the beach in 20 minutes on Block Island, or out at Martha's Vineyard, or up at Acadia Park. Aviation is a time machine.
Now, will you have to refrain from doing maneuvers in your in your own aircraft, or will it be tempting?
We'll fly in accordance with FAA regulations.
There you go.
That's the answer. So is it true that most of the fighter pilots up at the 104th Fighter Wing have their own chiropractor because of the G-forces?
there is-
I've heard
really?
stories.
Yeah.
There are a lot of back and spine problems, but the good news is, as you get older, there's a lot of great medicine out there to kind of help you through the muscle and the orthopedic issues that pop up, and really the VA has been fantastic to the pilots as they're retired.
Is that from the G-forces?
Yes. So if you think of what 9Gs is,
I have
you know,
no. I can't even imagine.
if I'm 200 pounds, all of a sudden my body weighs 1,800 pounds.
What does it feel like an elephant is just sitting on your, or 5 elephants?
Well,
I don't know.
You've been on a roller coaster, right?
Yes.
You know how when the roller coaster goes into a loop, you feel like you're getting squished into the seat?
Yeah.
That's probably 2, maybe 3 Gs.
Really?
So three times,
I can't
4 times the
ima-
force
I
you
just
feel on a roller
cannot
coaster.
imagine.
But the thing you have to fight the most is that
That-
you need to stay conscious,
That-
right? So
yeah.
the blood wants to settle down to your feet,
Oh,
out
that's
of your
what
brain.
happens. Okay.
And if you just sat there relaxed and you were under 9 Gs, you'd stay conscious for about 5 seconds or so, just because the oxygen that's still in your brain is going to keep you awake. But if you sustain 9 Gs for more than about 5 seconds without, it's called G straining. So we'll fly with an anti-G suit, which is inflatable bladders that cover your lower legs, your upper legs, and your stomach. And when those bladders constrict, you tense your muscles against those bladders, and that kind of pushes the blood or holds the blood and your blood pressure high up in your brain.
Right.
And as a pilot, if you're pulling those Gs, it's called graying out. So if you're not doing a good G straining maneuver, your vision will just slowly fade down till you feel like you're looking through a soda straw. And then if you don't G strain, soda straw goes and you black out.
And how do you revive? How do they?
The only thing that recovers is taking the G off. So the good and the bad news is if someone G-locks airborne, which is very rare,
okay.
because you go through so much training to be able to sustain it, and it's weeded out. If you have G-strain issues or G-tolerance problems, then that's weeded out early in the training process.
Okay.
But if you do black out, if you're at high altitude, the G-force will decrease because your pull on the controls is going to go away.
Oh, that makes sense.
And as long as you have enough altitude to wake up before the airplane, because an airplane without anybody controlling is going to fall to the earth.
Right, yeah.
As long as you have enough time to wake up.
Interesting.
Yep.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's scary.
It is.
But
It is. But I didn't realize all that training. I didn't know about those what do you call them, bladders?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Interesting.
Anti-G suit.
Cool.
Well, really appreciate sharing the mission and actually the operational information with the F-15. Maybe as you're coming in as a new wing commander, maybe you could share your vision, the direction you see the 104th going, some key goals that you're looking to achieve during your.
Well, the outgoing commander's Colonel Tom Bladen. He's retiring, going on to his career at Delta. But I've been serving as his vice for the last 2 years. And really, his leadership style was very inclusive with me because he saw me as the rising commander at the time, which was flattering at the time. But he included me in kind of what he saw the role of the wing commander to be, as well as the direction that he was going to take the wing. So it was his leadership, but collaborative along the path. And I have very little intention of changing the path the wing is on right now because we are on a great trajectory. The morale is high. We're developing some fantastic leaders. Our vision for the wing is to forge leaders in defense of this nation, more than anything. And that isn't an officer that's not enlisted. That is all 1,000 military members up there on the base. We're turning them into leaders. The youngest airman is a leader. It doesn't. The rank has nothing to do with leadership. If you're working in a section, you can lead. If you are leading a section, you are expected to lead. But really, there are 4 founding principles that Sling had kind of brought to the wing that I'm going to continue to go with, and it ties into even our conversation that the foundation of what we do is trust, right? And it is you can't accomplish anything as fast as you'd like to do it, or as efficiently as you'd like to do it, or as trusted as you'd like to do it without that base, right? So for you and I, trust Chris. I know that if you call me and you're asking for something, I trust you and I know that it is a real need. And I think that's reciprocal, right?
Absolutely.
And we are able to move quickly as a result of that trust. And that's the same exact thing inside that wing. If I can have a profound trust with my commanders and my airmen, that they know that I'm working in their best interest, and that they know that I'm going to give them all the tools that they need. And building trust it's difficult, but it's hard, right? Because it really comes down to action. The first time you let somebody down, now you're going to have to, you're at a trust deficit immediately. So you have to stand by the words that you say and complete the actions that you commit to. And that's where the trust comes from. And then with trust, the next thing that there's 4 fundamental principles. Trust is the base of it all. And then from there, we empower our airmen. We expect them to work as teams. And then we expect them to take bold action, right? So with trust as the baseline, now we can move out and empower them and say, listen, I want you to, if you are not doing something illegal, immoral, or unethical, and it's within regulation, and you think that you can get it done, you are empowered to get it done. You don't have to ask for permission. You just need to tell us what you intend to do, and we're going to say go do it. And that ties right into bold action, right? If there is something that you think, as you reflect on the way that your shop is operating, and you think it could be done better, then just do it. Oh. You don't ask for permission, but if it's not illegal, immoral, unethical, do it. And if it works, that's fantastic. If it doesn't work, that's fantastic too, because we celebrate failure. If you failed because you tried something that you thought was a good idea, we'll applaud that all day long. We'll learn from it. We'll tell everybody else what that learning is. We'll shift our fire and we'll adapt to that failure. But failure is a part of forging leaders. If we protect people from failure, they're never going to learn. We have to let them take that chance. And we have to trust them, and we have to empower them, and we can't micromanage them, because our greatest strength is the youth that we have inside that wing. Me telling somebody inside a shop what they should be doing, I have no idea what they should be doing. They are the experts.
Right.
They are the ones that should be making the decisions,
Right.
and that's what we really, really believe. And then teamwork ties that all together, right? If we can build those strong teams that are trusting of each other, that are empowered, that are willing to take that bold action, then we have, pockets of fire everywhere that are going to turn into a bonfire, right? And that's the morale and the mission execution that we're firing for all the time.
Oh, that's great. I'm curious, how did you start your career path and becoming a pilot? Like, what was that moment that you said, you know what, I want to be a fighter pilot, and then the steps you achieved to get to the point where you are today as wing commander of the 104th?
Well, my dad was in the Army. Served in Vietnam 2 tours, and I was always, growing up, I was very much, I was service-minded. I wanted to serve my country. I wanted to serve in the Army initially, obviously, because my dad, he was actually, at the end of his career, he was a Connecticut guardsman, working out of the Danbury Armory down there, and it was great because he would take me into the armory on some drill weekends, and I'd hang out and play pinball. I have memories of the guys there. But from a very young age, and I think it's important that we keep that connection with our youth, with the importance of service, because it's hard now with military service. There's very few people who are subjected to the draft. Obviously, the Vietnam generation is aging. And now military service is voluntary, and we're talking less than 1% of the population anymore that still has a connection. So talking about, and it doesn't have to be military service, but the importance of service to your country. We need to make sure the younger generation understands that everything that we have came at a cost, and the cost continues. Right? There are people living, fighting, dying. And again, it doesn't have to be in the military. There are people serving in the Peace Corps. There are people serving Teach for America. All of that it's truly a sacrifice, but it's making this country stronger and better. But for me, starting back then, seeing my dad in uniform, watching him go away for training, I knew kind of at a young age I wanted to serve. Through high school, I got a little more interested in aviation. So probably around the age of 14, I was kind of that could be something I want to do. And it's interesting that Top Gun 2 is now out at the twilight of my career, if you will, or later in my career. Because it was actually an influence on me when I was a younger kid. So I saw Fighter Pilot and I went, that looks awesome. So I decided to pursue the United States Air Force Academy. I attended the Air Force Academy, graduated there in 1998, and then pilot training shortly thereafter. But I do want to say I was a colonel flying fighters before Tom Cruise was a colonel flying fighter.
There you go. Yeah, so just
He might have been first at the beginning of my career, but I want to set the record straight. I got the tail end. And then of note, my daughter now is at the United States Air Force Academy as a freshman. Yeah,
oh, congratulations!
Yeah, she just finished her freshman year. She got home. Yeah, she got home 3 days ago for 3 weeks of leave. And then her summer is going to consist of jumping out of airplanes and surviving in the wild. So she's got a full summer.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, very proud of her.
She's going to be a fighter pilot?
I don't know. I don't pressure my children, but if she loves me, she will.
Sounds like a silly question. Do they allow women to be fighter pilots?
Of course
Yes.
they do.
Finally.
There is
What
no
year?
career.
Do you know what year that was?
To be a combat aviator, I can't
They
remember
did
the
restrict
year.
it at one point, right?
Yeah, there was no women in combat aviation.
Right.
I can't remember the year. It was in the 90s.
Okay.
I think the first female
that's
combat
good.
pilots, 90, 92, 93 perhaps.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and I have served and fought with women in the United States Air Force. And
Have you?
They are absolutely a force multiplier, and
Nice.
there is
Good to hear
there
that.
is no difference at all ever, as if that needed to be said.
Well, there's one in Top Gun.
as there should be.
You
Absolutely.
see it? There's a fighter pilot on that mission, a woman.
I still need to see the movie.
I know. I don't want to give it away. So that's all I'm going to tell you.
So I'm curious, during that time, the different aircraft that you've flown with the Air Force,
Yeah.
or some of the aircraft, besides the F-15?
Well, when I was at the Air Force Academy, I was an aeronautical engineering major. So when I graduated, I had a gap of about 10 months before I had to leave for pilot training. So I served, my first assignment in the Air Force was actually as a flight test engineer.
Wow.
Out at Edwards Air Force Base. And that was actually where I was serving in the 445th F-15 test squadron. So
okay.
I was flying in the back seat of the F-15, and I went, yeah, this is absolutely what I want to do. Fell in love with it right there. But I also got some unique opportunities while I was at Edwards. I was flying in the back of T-38s, landing on the lake bed out there, the dry lake, as well as a Coast Guard test airplane called the RU-38. It wound up not being fielded, but I was a flight test engineer on that as well. And then I got picked up for pilot training, went away and flew the T-37, which is no longer the primary trainer in the Air Force. It's now the T-6 and the T-38, again, to go learn to be a fighter pilot. And then you go through that for about, pilot training will last a year and a half. You'll do some follow-on training as well to get introduced to fighter fundamentals, it's called, where you'll learn to fly some formation and some tactical maneuvering. And then once you prove that you can fly a fighter type mission, then you start to learn the F-15. So again, another year's worth of training. You get exposed to everything that the F-15 can do. And just like I said earlier, it's just a license to learn at that point.
Yeah.
And you show up at your first operational unit. So for me, my first operational unit was at Mountain Home Air Force Base in Idaho. So up in the high desert of Idaho. Beautiful state. I loved living there. We were, you could be a 30-minute drive and you'd be at the bottom of a 3,000-foot canyon along the Snake River fly fishing.
Nice.
I mean, it was a great assignment. And the base at the time had a mix of F-15s, F-16s, B-1 bombers, and KC-135s. It was called a composite wing.
Oh, wow.
And that was my first deployment as well. Within a year, I was sent over to Saudi Arabia to fly the no-fly zone in Iraq.
Wow.
And we picked up and moved the entire wing. So everybody that I was deployed with were the same people that I had trained with for that whole first year. So it was fantastic. I mean, it was a little bit surreal to be shot at by Iraqis. You're pretty much out of training and immediately thrown into into combat situations. And yeah, it happens fast.
Wow. Okay.
And then your training just kicks in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and then you rely on that flight lead.
You just do.
Yeah.
That's from the movie. You just do it. You don't think about it. You just do it. That's all I'm going to say.
Yep. But the training that you go through, it's remarkable how fast it just becomes muscle memory. Because really flying the airplane is what's going on in the back of your brain, right? When you drive to work, are you thinking about every turn of the wheel or every step of the pedal?
Nope.
It's the same in the plane. You are busy with everything else that's happening. So as a wingman, you're busy with your own sensors.
Yeah.
As a flight lead, you're busy with your own sensors and every other aircraft in your formation. And you're able to fly the airplane because it's what's happening.
Yeah.
It's in the background. Your lizard brain is flying the plane, while your active brain is managing sensors and putting forces and munitions where they need to go.
So Moon, I hear some F-15
There they
stacks.
go.
Oh, there goes, one.
Interview's over. No.
There you go. So one of the things that's come up recently is the aircraft fighter conversion. And I know that Department of Defense is looking at a new fighter here for the 104th. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that process and kind of where we are right now.
Absolutely. So I think I'll start with the bottom line. The bottom line is we are very confident that Barnes Air National Guard Base and the 104th Fighter Wing are going to be recapitalized to a flying mission.
Good.
All the indicators that we're getting from Congress and from the Department of the Air Force are that, for all the reasons I already said, that we are a small, kind of the model Air National Guard base with great relationships with the community and the airport, joint use agreements with shared use of the runway. And then layered on top of that is just our reputation. We've got a great reputation as having never failed a readiness exercise, having always done exactly what the combatant commanders are asking us to do, and being successful, either at a real-world mission or in training exercises. The 104th has an excellent reputation. So with that baseline, absolutely, Department of the Air Force and the Secretary of the Air Force is who will decide where the aircraft will be based. The 104th is positioned well.
Good.
Again, the only air defense for 40 million Americans and a third of the GDP. This is a key strategic defense location for the United States of America, right? And if you look at the National Defense Strategy, defense of the homeland is the #1 priority. And if you're talking about defending the homeland, the routes into this homeland as it pertains to our potential enemies are obviously across the Pacific and then as well across the Atlantic and the North Pole. And what we have here at Barnes Air National Guard Base is defending the Atlantic corridor as well as the Arctic North.
So we expect to hear this year, finally.
We do.
This year.
So we had a site survey last year,
Yeah.
and the team that came out, they'd been the lead surveyor who came to the base told us that this was the best surveyed location he's seen in 30 years of doing the job.
Wow, in 30 years.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and they came back.
There they go. Love that sound. Every
Love it.
time
Sound
I
of
hear
freedom.
Fighter pilots.
it. Those
We're doing it
fighter
on
pilots.
purpose. Always a
There they
wingman.
go.
So he came back and said we were one of the best that he'd seen in 30 years. And then out of that survey that we are best suited for either the F-35 or the F-15EX, which are the two platforms that we're being considered for. We're hoping for a decision.
Okay.
Maybe by the end of the summer. I won't say definitely, but if we don't know by the end of the calendar year, by December, I would be surprised.
Yeah.
So whatever the follow-on platform is, like I said, our reputation precedes us, and the combatant commanders and the Secretary of Defense know that this base is critical for the defense of the homeland.
Great. We're sitting good for that then. Hopefully we'll know this year, and then we're all anxiously waiting. We've been hearing this for a couple of years now.
Right, yeah.
So, but it takes time.
It
you know,
does. It does.
And they have to do their due diligence, I'm sure.
But I mean, when you're talking about hundreds
that-
of millions of
yeah.
dollars for
Right.
new platforms and some new facilities, that they have to be good custodians of the taxpayer dollar.
Right.
I mean, we know that ourselves. So it's a complicated process, but for good reason.
So I think at this stage of our show, I think we'll just wrap it up a little bit with what we've got planned for next year. And we want to thank the commander for joining us. It's been a pleasure having you
been
on
great
our
being here.
show. So Chris and I are going to just wrap it up a little bit with what's going on next year. We think there's going to be an air show.
Yes, we have committed to 2023 being an air show
Okay.
year. We are debating a couple dates right now.
Okay,
We should be able to come to a decision by the end of June.
good.
So within 30 days, hopefully we can publicly announce. Part of what we're doing is we're working very hard to get the Thunderbirds or a major jet team here. And that's why we have to be flexible
A
in
lot
our
of
dates.
coordination, I'm sure, with that.
Lot of
They're
coordination.
high demand, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But we can't wait to have an air show.
Good.
We've missed opening our gates to the community because we are Westfield. We are part of this community.
Yeah.
And we want everybody to see how special this place is.
And they're
So,
popular. I mean, they draw thousands, tens of thousands of people.
Absolutely.
So hopefully we'll be able to have one next year.
Yeah.
And then I believe we're also, for the airport part of it, not military, not the air show part of it, but we're hoping to have, they call it a flower drop. Of course, I thought it was they're dropping flowers, like roses in a Target, but I was wrong.
Yeah, they're actually.
It's like the baking, like flour that you bake with or cook with. I'm like, oh, what do I know? I thought that was hilarious that I made that mistake.
No, it's in celebrating the 100th anniversary for the
Yes.
airport. So next year, Westfield Barnes Regional Airport will have its 100th anniversary. So we're going to have some events throughout
Yes,
the year.
we are.
Obviously, the air show, the Westfield International Air
Yep.
Show, will be a big part of it. To Kate's point, we're going to do a flower drop where you have a bag of flour that's dropped out on a target on the airfield.
Yes.
And whoever gets closest will have prizes. So our
Right.
tenants,
Can
civilian
the,
tenants.
can the F-15s compete?
Yeah, they figure it out. Drop it out of a bag or
Are
something.
they allowed
you
to
know?
drop things from their planes besides
figure it out.
weaponry? I mean,
The Army will want to play too then with the helicopters.
Yeah,
They're
helicopters
a little bit
just
easier. Hover right over. I don't know. Might have to do some handicapping of some sort, like in golf.
we might have to have some restrictions on this flower drop. Oh my God, it's so funny. And then we're doing a food vendor, we're doing a food truck.
We're
event?
looking at doing a food truck
Food truck,
vendor event
yeah.
with aircraft fly-in tied
Yes.
to it here at the airport. So it's something that
We're hoping to get a
Market
fly in
moves
here, get for general aviation to use our airport. And then, of course, it's our 100th anniversary next year, and we're definitely going to have our dinner dance. And we're hoping to have it in a hangar.
yes. So we're
We're hoping,
we're gonna be working
sir,
on that.
sir, that we can have it in a hangar. And that would be a nice wrap up for our anniversary, to have a nice dinner dance. That would be wonderful. So I want to thank you again for being on the air at Westfield Barnes Regional Airport. And we look forward to our next show, and thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me, Kate and Chris.
Yep. Thank you, Moon.
Thank you.